If you're thinking about moving to Austin, there are a few things you need to know before you make the leap. From when to buy, where to live, what life is really like here, and a few surprises that most people only learn the hard way. Also, later in the video, I'm going to share where you can expect to get the best deals and where you might encounter a bidding war. So let's get started. The first thing you need to know if you are making the move to Austin is that when you move here matters, and that is especially the case if you like money. Now you gotta understand, prices and inventory in Austin follow a seasonal rhythm, as is the case for pretty much any market you go to, but it's not the same as what you're gonna find in other markets. In the springtime here, this is when we're going to see the most listings. Most sellers are getting their houses ready for the springtime when things start greening up, and they can take advantage of that spring surge in the market. But with that comes with more competition and usually higher prices. Now, you look at the flip side of that, in the fall, winter, you're going to see less homes available. Buyer demand usually dips a little bit and prices dip a little bit. And I'll give you some of the numbers that we've experienced here in Austin over the last several years. So pretty much since 2021, which we'll call this kind of pandemic on that market, we've seen listings in the spring sell for 5 to 6% higher than they do in the fall, and that's considering the average sold price here in the Austin area. Now here's what's interesting. Pre-pandemic, so prior to 2020, that percentage was only about 1 to 2% higher during those spring months compared to the fall and winter. So I would say if we look at the Austin market today in 2025, it's more similar than it was pre-pandemic than it was during that pandemic boom. So we saw 5 to 6% over the last few years, 1 to 2% pre-pandemic. So let's figure maybe around 2 to 4% is the premium you're gonna pay if you're moving here in the spring. So I think here's what it comes down to. If you want the most choice and you're okay competing with more buyers, maybe paying a little slightly higher premium, shop in the spring. If you're mostly focused on getting the best deal, aim to shop in the fall. Just understand it's a little more slim pickets. All right, number 2, if you're moving to Austin, you need to determine if you are a north person or a south person. So here's what I mean by that. I would consider a north person living north of 183. So anything south of that is really still central Austin. And then if you're a south person, you would be south of Ben White, just to kind of get the lay of the land correct here so you understand what I'm talking about. Now, if you're a north person, you might want to live near or be close to some of the major employers, specifically the major tech employers. Talking about Apple, Dell, Samsung, or being close to the domain. IBM is a big employer there. So very tech-centric if you're living north. You also might be more of a north person if you're looking for some newer construction, master plan communities. Now, there are those down south, don't get me wrong, but I would say there's way more of those up north. If you're looking for good schools or more options for schools, pretty much north, you've got several school districts. Pflugerville, still some areas of Austin ISD are up north as well. You have Round Rock ISD, Leander ISD, and Liberty Hill ISD. Even if you go way northeast, you've got Hutto. So if all those things are something you're looking for, north might be more your vibe, more your style. Now, a couple of popular neighborhoods up that way, if you still want to stay in Austin but live north, maybe you land somewhere like Wells Branch or Pioneer Crossing, or you settle closer to the domain. Now again, some of the most popular suburbs in the Austin area are going to be in that northern area: Round Rock, Georgetown, Leander, Liberty Hill, just to name a few. But maybe you're more of a south person. Again, I said south of Ben White is what I would consider south. And again, some of these are generalizations, so it's not blanket across the board, but I think of south as getting a little more of that Austin vibe, some older homes, maybe a little more of the creative vibe as you go, staying central in the south area. Lots of food truck parks, places to be outdoors, and what most people love in Austin is live music. Now, another thing, if you want quick access to green belts, to watering holes, to the Texas Hill Country, living down south could definitely be the better option for you. Now, some popular neighborhoods, if you want to stay in Austin but be south, maybe Cherry Creek, Western Oaks, Circle C Ranch, or if you want to venture out to some of those top suburbs, Buda, Kyle, or Dripping Springs could be great options as well. And this is where I always like to remind you, I help run the Fenton Grossman group here in the Austin area. We help buyers relocating to Austin, just like you, people who reach out to us from YouTube, from Instagram, and we know the different areas of Austin and can help guide you, ask you these questions to help you figure out, are you north? Are you south? Maybe you're way east or way west. So reach out to the team. We'll help guide you to make your relocation as smooth as possible. All right, next on the list, if you're moving to Austin, you need to understand how to speak like a local, pretty much know the Austin lingo. Now, while people are nice here, you will get some funny looks if you pronounce some of these words the wrong way. So I'm gonna flash the word up at the bottom of the screen and teach you how to say it. So first one, you might think it's Guadalupe or Guadalupe. It's actually Guadalupe. And this is referring to Guadalupe, which is a street downtown. Next up, another street that runs right through the heart of downtown. Might look like Cesar Chavez. Caesar Chavez is how we say it here in Austin. All right, next word. A lot of people would say manor. Here, we say Manor. Now this could refer to the suburb Manor, which is east of Austin, or Manor Road, which is found in East Austin. Here's one that you will likely always mispronounce if you don't watch this video or you haven't heard it before. This word looks like Menchaca. We say Manchac. Now it used to be spelled, the area is spelled with an A, M-A-N. The road also used to be spelled that way. They changed it with an E. You can go research that story on your own, but you better say Manchac. You don't want to get funny looks. All right, next up again, an area, also the name of a road. You might say Burnett. Well, this word is Burnett. And then a couple more, one that absolutely drives me nuts. This one's pretty self-explanatory. You just pronounce it the way it looks, but it is not New Braunfels. It is not New Braunfels. It is New Braunfels. And if you're looking to move to a suburb just south of Austin, it looks like it might be Buda. It's Buda. All right, the last thing I'll touch on, so you sound like you know what you're talking about when you move here, is understanding some of the street names or major highways that have two names. So they're used interchangeably. First, we got Loop 1 and Mopac. If you hear both of those, it's referring to the same thing. Next, just on the central Austin, the northern part of central Austin, is a road called 2222, also known as Koenig Lane. Then south of Austin, you got Highway 71, which is also known as Ben White. Gotta remember, Highway 71 turns into where it winds off into Highway 71 and Highway 290. That could be a little bit of a tricky area, but now you know, you hear those names. We're talking about South Austin. And last, another big highway, kind of a loop that's in the northern part of Austin, is Capitol Highway of Texas, also known as 360. This is where you'll find Pennybacker Bridge going along the west side of Austin to the north. So when you move here, make sure you use all those terms properly, use those roads interchangeably, and you'll sound like a local. All right, next up, something you absolutely need to know before moving to Austin. You gotta understand the commute patterns, not just the distance that you will be commuting. So traffic depends way more on direction and timing than it does distance. For instance, when I first moved to Austin, I was an elementary school teacher living near downtown, driving up to Pflugerville, and the drive was a breeze every day because I was going out of the city. Well, I saw the traffic coming back the other way, and it's something that I promised myself I would never sit in. And there were times where from downtown, that traffic on I-35 would back up all the way to close to Pflugerville or Round Rock, which seemed miserable, but you got to understand, in the mornings, if you're coming into the city, you can expect heavy traffic, especially on I-35. In the afternoons, when you're in the city, if you're going back out to the suburbs, that's when you're going to hit the most traffic. And obviously that's the case for a lot of cities, but in Austin, you've got I-35 and Mopac as two of the main north-south ways to go to those suburbs. So there really aren't many options. Now you can circumvent a lot of downtown by going to the 130 toll road. And again, you have to pay a toll. You can go several miles longer in distance, but it can cut down that commute. So definitely when you are moving here, you got to consider where you're living, where you're commuting. And I highly recommend not working north of, or not living north of downtown if you're working south of downtown, and vice versa. If you're working at one of the tech campuses up in the northern part of Austin or the northern suburbs, if you live in Dripping Springs, if you live in Buda, Kyle, you could be spending upwards of 2 to maybe 3 hours in your car round trip each day, which to me does not sound appealing. So if you're moving to the Austin area, definitely consider making a reverse commute. It could honestly save you several hours each day and each week. All right, number 5, before moving to Austin, be ready for higher property taxes and insurance. So this is one that usually shocks newcomers that come to Austin, is those property taxes. They can be pretty eye-opening and blow your budget out of the water depending on where you're looking. Now, it's pretty safe to expect around the 1.8 to 2.2% property tax rate in the Austin area. Now, if you're looking at maybe a $500,000 home, that equates to around $10,000 a year or a little over $800 a month. Now, it is not uncommon to see a property tax bill that's over $1,000 a month, so you got to be ready for it. Now, there's a couple other things you need to understand if you are shopping in areas around Austin that could really increase that property tax rate, and that is if you're searching in a neighborhood that has a MUD, which is a municipal utility district, or maybe it's in a PID, which is a public improvement district. These are different taxing entities that depends on the infrastructure that was needed to build the neighborhood or parks that they built around it. It's another additional tax to those taxpayers, to the homeowners there, that can take your tax rate from maybe the low 2s up to the high 2s or even above 3%. You also got to understand that the tax rates in the Austin area are reset each year. So the city council members meet and they set the new tax rates, and that could keep your monthly payment changing each year as well. Now, there are ways to keep those property taxes lower than you hope they will be. One is homestead exemptions. It's a way to lower your overall tax value of your property to keep those tax bills even lower. And each year you can protest your property taxes. Now, this is something when we have clients move here, we hold their hand, take them through the steps all the way from the beginning to the end to help them keep more money in their pockets and save money, especially when it comes to property taxes. Now, on top of taxes, I mentioned insurance, homeowners insurance. In Texas, the average homeowner's insurance premium is around $4,200 a year, which is way different. When I got in the business, usually when we would look at estimates for homeowners insurance, when we were looking at monthly payments, we'd figure around $100 a month. Well, it is way higher than that now. In some cases, you got to look $200, $300, $400 a month. In Austin, kind of average is closer to that $2,500 to $2,800 a month range, but it can be way higher and way lower depending on some of these factors. For instance, if you're in a flood zone, if you're in a wildfire area, roof age is a big one as well. You gotta understand here, sometimes we have a little wacky weather, some hail hits your roof, you gotta get a roof replacement, and that premium is probably going to be affected by it. Okay, number 6, you gotta understand the weather extremes here are real. Now, I've talked about weather in other videos of mine, but you really cannot move here without understanding what you're getting into. As a matter of fact, we've had clients move here, we told them what to expect, they experienced it for themselves, and they changed their mind. They decided to move back out of Austin. So you really need to know so you don't make that same mistake. Now, I'm recording this in September and it's in the mid 90s today. When I turned my car on after it was sitting in the sun, it said 100 degrees. As a matter of fact, while I'm recording this video, a couple times my phone has overheated. So that just shows even in September, when we're moving into fall, the weather here can be pretty brutal. Now, one cool thing is that this past summer, we actually had a good amount of rain, more rain than we've had in quite a while. It keeps your grass green. You don't have to water your grass as much, and keeps everything nice and bloom. We were able to grow tomatoes this summer, which was amazing, but it does get very toasty. So there's a couple things you need to consider that I would highly recommend you consider if you're moving here to Austin. That is, when you're looking at areas, does my neighborhood have a pool? Is there an HOA pool that is accessible? What are the amenities like? If it's not your neighborhood, does the house I'm buying have a pool, or is that something I want to add to my must-haves if I'm making the move here? And if the answer is no to both of those, do I live near a public pool that I have access to? And I'm telling you from experience, going a summer without regular access to a pool, especially if you have kids, can be torture. So throw summer out the window. Fall and spring are going to be pretty mild. Same with winter. Now, there is something in winter that you do need to be aware of. This is when, aside from summer, we get the most extreme temperatures. I'm talking, you can have certain days, some days throughout the winter with freezing temperatures, lots of ice and snow, although it's usually going to be limited to a few days throughout the year. The funny thing is, it can snow, you can have a week of freezing cold temperatures, and boom, the next day, it's back in the 60s and 70s, everything melts and it feels like spring again. Also, something people underestimate when they move here and experience those really cold temperatures is that the city, in a sense, goes into like a lockdown mode. Really, we are not prepared for freezing temperatures, for deep freezes, for snowstorms, and everything shuts down. People like to stay off the roads, although I will say the past couple of years, I've noticed when we are expecting those freezing temperatures and potential ice, the highways are usually salted a couple days in advance because they don't want to, they want to stay prepared and stay ahead of the game so that we don't go into that lockdown mode. But understand, extreme heat, extreme freezing, which is only a couple of days. Other than that, beautiful weather throughout the year. And in a little bit, I'm going to give you some ways to enjoy that beautiful weather. All right, number 7, if you're moving to Austin, you need to understand how competitive it truly is here. And of course, I'm specifically referring to the real estate market. Now, the market has cooled tremendously from the pandemic frenzy we saw from 2020 to about 2022, 2023, and that's where we saw prices start coming back to earth. But you got to understand, competition can still be pretty intense in different pockets around Austin, and we've had clients experience that recently. So if you're looking for a home priced near the median price, maybe in the 400s or under, 500s and under in Austin, and it's fully updated, move-in ready, there's a good chance when that house goes on the market, it's gonna sell pretty quickly. Now we see this less in some of the outer skirts, the suburbs, but in the hot areas, this is where we're definitely seeing it. And what we're noticing is sometimes if you wait till a price drop happens, then you see the competition pick up. We've had buyers that watched the house, they did a big price drop. When they went after it, that's when all the other buyers too, and all of a sudden they get into a bidding war. We actually saw the craziest thing happen recently, a strategy that I guess some sellers are trying. We saw a home in Barton Hills, which is one of the top neighborhoods of 78704, just south of Austin or close to downtown. And there was a house that was priced over $4 million. It was a beautiful modern new build, and they reduced the price to in the 800,000s. And the reason they did that was to essentially start a bidding war, and they set an offer deadline for about 2 weeks out. So this got so many more eyes on the property. It still hasn't sold as of today, hasn't went under contract yet, but we've had buyers that are looking in the millions and 2 millions reach out to us because they saw that house come on the market and it interests them. So we're seeing a lot of different strategies right now because sellers are starting to get desperate. Now, last month in Austin, we saw an average list price to close price ratio of about 92%, and it's been hovering in those low 90s for about the last year. So here's some strategies to help you take advantage of that market and help you win if you get into a competitive offer situation. First thing, find a hyper-local agent, someone who knows all the different pockets throughout Austin and who has experience dealing with A, getting great deals, and B, how to win homes when you get in a competitive offer or multiple offer situation. Also, you want someone who can find off-market opportunities or coming soons so that you don't have to compete against other buyers. And again, this varies depending on the price point. We see a lot of million plus or 2 million plus homes right now sitting for way longer, and that's where we're seeing buyers get some great deals. Of course, you've got to get fully approved. Make sure you have concrete discussions with lenders so you're ready when the time comes. That's a given. And then something that our team, I would say, specializes in is writing strong, clean offers. We have agents all the time tell us like, wow, your offer was clean, it was easy to present, there wasn't any nonsense in it. And that's something that you need, relationships with other agents and an agent that knows how to present and write strong offers. So really remember, we're not in 2021 anymore, but there are pockets of Austin that can certainly feel like it. If you like a house, be educated on the area and what you can expect and whether you're going to be looking to get a really good deal or bidding against other buyers. All right, number 8, before moving here, you need to know the nature and recreation map/layout of the city. Now, Austin's known for being a healthy, active lifestyle city. And the coolest part, one of the highlights of being here for me is going to the Lady Bird Lake Trail. There's a 10-mile trail that goes around the lake downtown, and it's accessible pretty much from all parts of Austin. Obviously, if you live way north, if you live way south, you might not go there as much, but I'm going to share some spots that you do want to check out if you live in those areas. Now, if you live up north, you might hit up somewhere like Lake Georgetown where you can go fishing, kayaking, camping up there. Lots of cool things to do around that lake. You can even just walk around the lake to get some good exercise and some of your nature in. Also, living up north, usually on the western side of the northern part of Austin, gives you easy access out to Lake Travis through Lago Vista. Another really cool spot also in that Georgetown area in downtown Georgetown is the Blue Hole. So it's along the San Gabriel River. It's a cool little attraction, again, to get that mix of nature and water. Again, with those brutal extreme weather days, you need to get into water. So Blue Hole is a great spot. And then kind of a hidden gem, I love going out in the northern part of Austin to the River Place hiking trail. You can hike up to a waterfall as well. A lot of people don't know about this area. It's in the River Place neighborhood, but there's a trailhead. You look it up on Google. It's really easy to find, and it's a beautiful shaded walk. Now, if you live down south, again, you don't want to go all the way to downtown On the western side, you might hit up Hamilton Pool Preserve. Again, get that water fix, also some beautiful nature and scenery. There are so many access points to the Slaughter Creek Greenbelt and the Barton Creek Greenbelt down south. I love going to the Barton Creek Greenbelt near Lost Creek. You can actually hike to areas like Sculpture Falls, and I bring my kids there and they love not only the little hike that it takes to get there, but also, again, going in the water, you got to watch out for snakes. We saw a little water moccasin last time we were over there, but that's part of being in nature. And down south, again, also easy access out to Lakeway to hit up Lake Travis and Lake Austin, whichever one you want to go to. So guys, these are all the things that I wish every newcomer knew before making the move to Austin. It can save you time, it can save you money, it can definitely save you stress. If you're thinking about making the move to the Austin area, our team has plenty more resources that we can help you out with to make that transition as smooth as possible. If you want a more personalized game plan, definitely reach out to our team below. All of our contact info is there. We'd love to help you. We'll catch you on the next one.